It was 3 years ago today that Typhoon Haiyan made landfall in the Philippines. Obviously we were here at the time. It was just myself covering Force 13 at that juncture in time. But today I want to dedicate that particular occasion, which was a very huge one in meteorological terms and obviously a very devastating one in terms of the human cost in the Philippines. And we're going to now show you some of the stuff that we came up with at the time and some satellite imagery rolls of what happened during Haiyan.
Update 1 on Tropical Storm Haiyan, which is currently located out in the open waters of the Western Pacific, not too far from Chuuk, and moving towards the west, towards the rest of the Micronesian islands. Currently with wind speeds of 50 miles per hour sustained, a pressure of 989 millibars. Current position 6.1 degrees north, 148.3 degrees east. And you can see here the storm's expected to move towards the west-northwest generally over the next few days, intensifying all along the way, and possibly peaking as a Category 4 storm before making landfall in the Philippines. By the looks of things right now, it appears that the storm may make landfall in the central region of the Philippines, the Visayas region, and could also affect Luzon in the next 5 days. Update 2 on Typhoon Haiyan, with current wind speeds of 120 miles per hour and a pressure of 944 millibars. Currently intensifying right now. Its current position is 7.1 degrees north, 141.2 degrees east, which puts it out to sea not too far from Micronesia. It's likely to pass through the Yap region over the next few days as a strong storm, intensifying, could even reach Category 5 intensity as it approaches the Philippines. The storm's expected to impact the Philippines, the central part in particular, the Visayas region, possibly as a Category 4 typhoon. Update 3 on Super Typhoon Haiyan, which has become the 5th Category 5 storm of the year worldwide, currently with wind speeds of 160 miles per hour sustained and a pressure of 918 millibars. Current position 7.9 degrees north, 136.2 degrees east, meaning that the storm is bearing down on Palau right now, and the storm's expected to move towards the Philippines, striking the central Visayas region as a strong Category 4 typhoon. So the latest satellite imagery, you can see how the eye has been developing over the past few hours. Certainly a very intense one by the looks of things. Very close to the island of Palau, which is just that little area of islands towards the west-southwest of the storm. And the storm looks like it's going to pass just north of that, but we could certainly see some typhoon conditions, certainly heavy rainfall that will occur over that region. Update 4 on Super Typhoon Haiyan, which is currently located in between Palau and the Philippines now, with wind speeds sustained of 175 miles per hour and a pressure of 911 millibars. Current position is 8.6 degrees north, 132.8 degrees east, and the storm's expected to close in on the Philippine Islands over the next 24 hours, possibly making landfall in the Visayas region as a strong Category 4 typhoon. The latest satellite imagery, you can see how the storm's been moving towards the west-northwest. Certainly a well-defined eye, and certainly you can see how it has 175 mile per hour winds, gusting to 205, and the storm has a very strong central core around it there, with some intense rainfall occurring in that, as well as those spiral bands which are on the way to the Philippines and is likely to reach the coast of the Philippines, the worst of that there, in the next few hours. Update 5 on Super Typhoon Haiyan, which has strengthened over the past 12 hours or so, now with wind speeds of 190 miles per hour sustained, with gusts possibly as high as 230 miles per hour, pressure of 895 millibars, and its current position is 10.2 degrees north, 129.1 degrees east, approaching the Philippines with some venom. Certainly the strongest storm we've possibly seen in years, and it will be the strongest landfall we've seen in years as well, with a Category 5 landfall on the cards for the eastern Visayas region. It's certainly going to be a catastrophic storm in that region near the epicenter of the landfall when it does occur in the next 12 hours. The storm will move out to sea over the South China Sea still as a strong typhoon and eventually make landfall in Vietnam as a typhoon. So this is the latest satellite imagery. You can see how a ferocious storm it is as it's passing towards the west-northwest, curving just a little bit more towards the west over the past few hours. You can see quite clearly here on this imagery a very well-defined storm. It certainly seems justified of its 190 mile per hour intensity, and you can see some very strong spiral bands moving into the Philippines now, the eastern coast of the Visayas region and possibly northwestern Mindanao as well. And you can also see almost a perfect donut shape there around the eye, certainly a very intense core around the eye there. So wherever the eye wall lands or makes landfall, we'll probably see some very intense conditions, especially on the leading edge of that eye wall when the storm makes landfall in the Visayas region in the next 12 to 24 hours. Update 6 on Super Typhoon Haiyan, which is currently located over the Philippines right now, the Visayas region, with wind speeds of 185 miles per hour sustained and gusts of 225 miles per hour. Right now with a pressure of 903 millibars. Current positions 11.0 degrees north, 124.8 degrees east as of 2 a.m. UTC on November the 8th. Now obviously it's a very strong storm. It did make landfall pretty much at its peak intensity. It reached 195 mile per hour winds with gusts of 235 miles per hour earlier today, which is probably the strongest landfall we've ever seen in the modern period. And now to number 1, and this storm needs no introduction. Super Typhoon Haiyan.
The storm was a late season storm forming in November 2013, starting out in the open Pacific on November 3rd. The storm became a typhoon only 2 days after forming. Soon after, rapid deepening ensued, and the storm became a Category 5 super typhoon only 36 hours after becoming a typhoon, and intensified further to winds of 195 miles an hour and air pressure of 895 millibars before striking the Philippines at that intensity.
So why is Haiyan number 1 absolutely unparalleled in its landfall, 195 miles an hour? 6 landfalls in total over the Philippines. It caused a hell of a lot of damage. It caused most likely over 7,000 fatalities, and obviously damages well over 2 billion, probably closer to 3. Buildings damaged 572,900, and there were a further 536,500 that were destroyed completely by this storm. It caused absolute misery and total destruction in the Tacloban region of the island of Leyte in the Philippines. And people often ask me, how often will we ever see a storm like this again? When will we see another Haiyan? Will it be tomorrow? Will it be in 10 years? I do think that these storms are more common than people might think. Certainly out at sea, it's just very unlucky that this storm did make landfall at near its peak intensity. Very rare in that sense. But these storms, yeah, not as rare as people might think, and it could possibly be, it could happen any time, of course, but generally, you're probably looking at least 1 in every 100 years that you'd see a storm as bad as this strike the Philippines at this intensity. Speculative perhaps, but probably true. Needless to say, this was one of the deadliest storms of the Philippines in modern times, one of the deadliest storms in the Western Pacific since the new millennium. And look at the pictures on the ground after the storm passed through. Places unrecognisable of their former selves before the storm arrived. And even though many storms have produced these kind of effects in the past, we've seen plenty of them during our top 100. Even though it is a recent storm and there may still be possibly 1 or 2 accusations of hype perhaps over Haiyan, or just because bias because it was a recent storm, I still think, pound for pound, with its massive landfall of 195 miles an hour, that Haiyan takes it as the top 1 in the top 100 of Force 13's Hurricane Week 2015.